So let's start by talking about where the idea for Shadow Complex came from.
Well, the idea actually came from the folks at Chair. Shadow Complex was a concept that was put together by Don and Laura Mustard and the fine folks there. And they had actually brought Orson Scott Card in, who worked on novels that were tied into the entire concept. And then they brought me in with a basic concept of what the game was going to be and asked me to come in and flesh it out and put in more dramatic beats and the dialogue and the character building, that sort of thing. So it was really very much a mutual job.
What was it that attracted you to this world?
Well, first off, Don and Laura are great folks. They seem very enthusiastic. I was struck by their youth and enthusiasm and clear, genuine love for video games. So, if anything, it was really the two of them that brought me into it.
When it comes to this world, what do you like best about the characters that you developed?
Oh, I like that we played against the types. There are certain kind of cliches or iconic characters that are generally associated with spy games and all that sort of thing. And we had a lead character who I think tended to run contrary to that. He could do things that were unexpected. We even tossed the thing into the game where he could basically say, screw this, let them keep the girl, I don't care, there's plenty of fish in the sea, and he drives away and the game's over. So we pretty much gave him the latitude to do anything we wanted.
But speaking of doing anything you wanted, they just confirmed that you have written Shadow Complex 2. What was it like returning to the franchise?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, considering that I wrote it pretty soon after the first one, it wasn't really so much of a return as a continuation.
So this has just been something that's kind of been put on hold for a while since you wrote it right away.
Yes, I wrote it pretty quickly. It was a few years back. And then for whatever reason, they decided not to do Shadow Complex 2. I'm still hoping that it eventually comes out.
When it comes to Shadow Complex, what do you feel it is that has stood the test of time? People still love this game to this day, and it's been years.
I think it's just a fun game. I mean, really, you don't ask for much more of a video game than that.
Have you gone through and played it, and what are your thoughts as a player?
I've never played it, so I don't have the setup to do it. Sorry.
What about when you look at this franchise as potential for comic books and those kinds of things?
Oh, I think it has the entire world that they've created. I think has tremendous potential for that. Comic books or movies or that kind of thing, I think would be great if they went forward with that.
What are your thoughts about how comics seem to have really exploded on the Hollywood side over the last 5 or so years?
Well, that really doesn't surprise me. I mean, when you think of the way that special effects have finally developed to the point that movies can now keep up with them. I mean, things are being done in movies that were unthinkable 15, 20, even 10 years ago that are now routine. So it's really not much of a surprise. But on the other hand, if you look at the history of movies, of the top 50 movies in terms of box office intake, 48 of them are science fiction, fantasy, or comic books. So it's really nothing new. It's just that with the recent development of special effects, you can turn out movies that can actually keep up with the comics.
And people that are older remember a lot of bad comic book movies before the more recent successful ones. We've seen similar things on the video game side, a lot of really bad video game movies. But do you feel that video games like comics could conquer Hollywood at some point?
It would not surprise me in the least.
What's the key, do you feel, to successful translation from one medium to another?
Figuring out what works in each medium and exploiting it to that effect. I mean, I thought that the Lara Croft movies, both of them, were really terrific. I mean, they had Angelina Jolie, and they had exciting adventures, and they didn't need a video game.